She's on the line. You're muted, Dan.
Okay, it's 6 p.m. Let's begin. Good evening and welcome to the NYCHA Monitor Team Community. Okay, I'll start again. I believe the recording just began. Good evening and welcome to the NYCHA Monitor Team CAC meeting. We have a full house and a full agenda. So without any further ado, let's get started. Thank you all for being with us virtually and for all of you who are joining us on the YouTube live stream. So as initial matter, we wanted to turn it over to the Deputy Monitor, Dan Burnell, to open us up, please.
Thanks, Asha. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm going to keep this brief because, first of all, I know that Asha wants to get to all the reports of the committee members. So last week was a very important week for NYCHA in that, in a way, kind of miraculously, not because of anything with NYCHA, but just, you know, the level of what it took to get the housing preservation bill through the state assembly and the state senate is really a remarkable accomplishment. NYCHA in particular, of course, worked very hard to do this. HUD also, Alika and others spent a lot of time up in Albany and talking to elected officials and resident leaders and other people on this bill. It's really a noteworthy accomplishment, to say the least. And, you know, we really want to acknowledge NYCHA for the hard work and, you know, what this bill will hopefully provide in the future going forward for more funding and other things. And so one of the things that I thought would be useful, because it is a little complicated, is that we asked Joe Jaffe from the Monitor team to kind of talk about some of the highlights of the bill, just so that people kind of understand it as a way to open up this meeting where, as I said, we really want to take time out and acknowledge NYCHA for this accomplishment.
Thanks, Dan. Eva, feel free at any time if I understate or overstate to jump in and correct me. Last Wednesday,
Sure thing, yeah.
Last Wednesday and Thursday, the Assembly and the Senate passed the New York City Housing Authority Preservation Trust Bill, which is awaiting signature from the governor. And what this does basically is set up a new entity that will allow borrowing to occur, and I'll explain that in just a minute, and it also sets up an ability of NYCHA through the trust that's created to transfer the leasehold interests in 25,000 units. That leasehold interest goes to the trust. The trust then can borrow against Section 8 vouchers. It transfers those units from Section 9 to Section 8. It ensures certain tenant protections, which many of you who were involved in this in the past know that there was a fight whether there would be tenant protections for succession and cap on rent to 30% of the salary. Those have been incorporated into the bill. It's hopeful that by getting the 25,000 vouchers and converting those Section 9 to Section 8, there will be sufficient funds that can be generated either by the New York City Housing Corporation on behalf of the trust, selling bonds, or by borrowing or other means, all of which are allowed under the legislation, so that there can be a rehab, if you would, a comp mod of at least those 25,000 units, and that number can be increased each year. The units the vouchers are to come from HUD, and it is our understanding, and Eva has a much better understanding of it, that there had to be some idea that they would be available because HUD helped in Albany with NYCHA to get the bill passed, which a year ago, I think most people on this call and elsewhere in the city thought was an impossibility. For those who you will speak to, since you represent them, you all know that the ownership of the property remains with NYCHA. The leaseholds go to the trust. The lease renewals and succession rights are guaranteed and rents are capped at 30%. The other issue that was very important, I believe, to a lot of people who inhabit and who surround NYCHA developments is that before a building can go and become Section 8 instead of Section 9, there needs to be resident tenant approval for the conversion to occur. And there will also be approvals by the residents of certain people who will perform the comp mod that's going to be performed. There are a host of other issues that are involved, but basically this bill provides there's a new corporation. There's going to be a 9-member board that will run this corporation, this trust. 4 of them will come from NYCHA, 4 NYCHA residents. So there are a host of other provisions of the bill. If you need it, we don't have a final of the bill. We have the Senate bill and the Assembly bill, both of which were renamed, and they're exactly the same. So if you need copies, we'll send them to you. If you want to be able to explain to your constituents and others what this is, there's an introduction to the bill that does a fairly good job explaining it. There are lots of nuances. There's lots of work to be done. I'm sure that Jeff and Eva will be working together so that as we go forward, the vouchers will be available. The build out of the corporation and the transfer will occur. And while it's not an instant improvement bill for operation money available now, it's a bill for the future that at least we can look forward to saying somewhere between $3 and $4 billion can be generated to do at least 25,000 apartments. That in a very short run is what this is about. If you need copies of the bill, please just let Dan know. I'll send you a copy. Eva or Jeff, did I leave anything out?
Thanks, Joe. I think you hit the high level terms of the bill. We're very excited to start working on the trust now. We're putting together a working group to start planning for the organizational planning that needs to happen, as well as working on the draft rules for the voting process, which is really a very key first step to make sure that we have that resident opt-in process set for public comment. So that is what a lot of us are now turning to in the near future.
Thanks.
Eva, how long will the resident public comment be open?
I'm not sure yet how long it will be open, but we're working through all those details now.
Great, thank you both. Thank
And
you.
we can definitely at a future meeting have the team that's more directly involved in this come and present in more depth.
That would be appreciated. Thank you, Eva, for volunteering that team. And Joe, thank you so much for the update. Dan, anything else? Any other monitor team updates?
No, not really. We're obviously, don't get me started in each of the pillars because there are a lot of things going on. No, I think my suggestion, Asha, is we get right to the reports from the different committee members.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So next I wanted to turn to ask Eva if you wanted to go now on the agenda or a little bit later.
I can go now. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, please proceed.
So I just have a few miscellaneous updates to share tonight. The first is that Our capital project tracker has now been live on our website for probably 2 months. We're getting really positive feedback so far from everyone who's tested it and used it. We're still taking feedback for, really in perpetuity. We're happy to have feedback on the tracker. We're still working with our IT department to refine some of the information on it. And we're hoping to make improvements such as to include the physical needs assessment data and other general capital background information. So that is ongoing and will probably not be finished until the first quarter of 2023. But, anything else that someone, if you're working on it and you see something else, definitely feel free to shoot that my way, and I can send that to the capital tracker team for them to, consider it as a improvement. In addition, we have the other update I wanted to share is we are working now on getting ready to launch work order reform in the borough of Brooklyn. We're scheduled to launch Monday the 18th in Brooklyn. And so we're preparing now, and we'll be doing resident briefings probably the last week of June. And we'll be sending out information on that shortly. So we're getting ready. We're very excited. We learned a lot from the Bronx. Bronx was very different from Queens, Staten Island. And so we've already put in place improvements in the Brooklyn planning process that we hope will continue to improve the program. Manhattan is also still on schedule for September. So those are the 2 main updates I wanted to share tonight. Asha, if there's anything else, let me know. I can update.
I think that was helpful. Thank you. Can you tell us about the work that the Resident Roundtable is doing?
Oh, yes. So the Resident Roundtable presented draft recommendations from each of their 4 subcommittees. They presented it last month to Arvin and myself. And the 4 subcommittees, again, are quality of life, quality assurance, safety and security, and management practices. And now we gave them some feedback on those recommendations, and they're preparing for a final presentation of recommendations this Thursday night, the 16th. And that presentation is going to include a lot of senior staff from NYCHA. Unfortunately, our chair can't make it, but the COO is scheduled to attend, as is other EVPs like the EVP for Safety and Security and others. So we're really excited to continue that conversation with the roundtable members. And then once they have their recommendations finalized and handed over to us, we are going to be working to incorporate them into our phase 2 implementation plan. We've committed to responding to every single recommendation, whether it's something we can accept and how we would implement it, whether it's something that's a good idea but needs more research or more money or something else for us to consider at a future date, or if it's something that we're not able to implement and we would explain why it's not a feasible option for us. So we are going to be, we're looking forward to having that final meeting on Thursday and moving into kind of an implementation planning process for all of those recommendations. And then now that kind of closes out the work of the Resident Roundtable on those subcommittees, we've been talking about going back to the roundtable and seeing if there's other topics or other areas that they want to take on kind of their next year of work. And so that's an ongoing conversation with them as well.
Thank you, Eva, for that update. I know the Resident Roundtable has been really working hard and coming up with a lot of great recommendations. So I'm happy to hear NYCHA's commitment to considering them. Okay, next, Loretta, do we have Ms. Lozano available for the CCOP update? I'm not sure if she's able to join us, perhaps later in the agenda. So for this evening, I would like to put everyone on the call on the spot to please give any updates from your department or vantage point that you think would be of interest to our CAC members or to the NYCHA resident population. And so we will turn to FDNY and NYPD if they're on the phone, in that order, please.
Michael, you're on mute.
I'm good now.
Here you go.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Mike Thompson. I'm a battalion chief representing fire operations. Within the last year, we've reissued and collected over 350 key fobs. And as more layered access control doors are being installed, we're ensuring that the units are getting new keys, new fobs, as well as we're trying to work on a coordination of getting notification to the FDNY, to units when these door systems go down. So we're aware ahead of time. So we limit the damage we do to doors for non-fire responses. Obviously for a fire, if the door doesn't work, we have to get in and, life always comes first. But that's all really I have for any sort of update as far as from a fire operations standpoint.
Thank you for that update. Is your office able to tell if there have been reduced door damage? Has this initiative been useful?
So I've only received a small hand in the last year. What I've received from New York City housing, because I kind of handle all of this stuff myself. Not many unnecessary door damages or necessary. It seems to be definitely working as far as reducing the amount of damaged doors. The problem we have with the keys are like anything that's a technology. It's not a real key. So if there's an interruption in a frequency, the key doesn't work. If the key gets wet, it could not work. So the only way we'll know with the keys not working is when we arrive. And, the good thing for us is what we did was the initiative the FDNY took was to outfit units with more keys. So the officer has a key, another person who would be with him also has a key. And now you don't just usually have just two people there. So if one key doesn't work, we're hoping to reduce the damage by having, multiple keys at the site at the same time, so we could access it, and then we could address handling, the distribution of the new keys, which we're doing directly now. We have spares allotted that we were given from New York City Housing, and as soon as we receive a request for a key, that the turnaround is extremely fast in getting a new key delivered to the company. The other thing is we do have fallback. We put in fallback measures. So if a company goes, say their keys don't work, we do have in each battalion spare keys. So they can be delivered a spare key. Then we backfill from the fire operations standpoint into the battalion. And then we're never running short, or a unit should never be without an operational key. So far, at least from my standpoint, as far as emails and working with New York City Housing Security, it seems like there's definitely been a reduction in damaged doors, the layered access doors. Moving forward, we'd like to try and identify and get hard keys for all developments that don't have layered access control to reduce damage on those doors. I think that would be beneficial, in the future. So, it would be easier for us. We wouldn't have to. It's the faster we get in, the better it is for everybody, ourselves included.
Absolutely.
So
now, that's just so good to hear that there are multiple aspects for this initiative being improved, even having the backup doors, the swiftness in getting replacement keys. I'm sorry, the backup keys, having the two keys, and making sure the battalion's outfitted with the keys. But is that specifically related to the key fobs only? And is there a similar process in place for the more traditional key?
So what we did was, first we wanted to identify all the new layered access doors that are being installed. And what we'd like to do, the next initiative for fire operations and New York City Housing, is to work together to now outfit all assigned, first of all, like what we call alarm assignments. So that gives you 3 engines, 2 trucks to a specific alarm box. And it's basically, consider a box an address or a block, so to speak. And if we could outfit those companies with those keys for each individual address, I think that we would see a significant reduction in damage to doors. And I think I would love it. It'd be great for us. It's great for the residents. It's great for everybody. It's very time consuming. And it's definitely something that I look forward to working on. And it's good. It's good for the department, and it helps. You know what else? It's not just for fires. It's for the say a medical call that we go on and no one's there. The person can't get to the door. So what happens is we have to break 2 doors now. We have to break the front door, which affects, a multitude of residents. Then we have to break the apartment door. So what we're trying to do is reduce the amount of damage that we do. It's that we could avoid. And if we could avoid damaging things, it's a home run.
No, that's always better for everyone and more efficient for safety purposes. Who has been, it sounds like you've had a good person within NYCHA to help facilitate the key fobs. And perhaps this is a question for Eva, but is it the same person that could help facilitate the more traditional key?
I know on my end, I've been working with security and that's who we're going to, somebody just recently contacted me. It seemed like there was a little bit of a change in personnel. I'm drawing a blank on the name off the top of my head, but I am working with somebody directly.
Chief, was it Curtis Cabell by any
yeah,
chance?
I know Curtis, but somebody else
Okay.
now is coordinating some of the other stuff. Hold on
Give
one
me-
second. Let me pull it up. I have it in my phone.
Is it Chief Credo?
Excuse me?
The Credo?
Not ringing a bell. Let's
Okay, well,
see.
just let us know if we can help facilitate.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
But it sounds like it's working well. So we're glad to hear that. Thank you for that update.
No problem.
And now we'll turn to NYPD, please. We don't necessarily need detailed stat readout, but if you could give us just the high level trends and any other updates or initiatives that you wanted to update us on, please.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I should thank you for having us once again, letting us be part of this council. We really appreciate it. So I won't go into the details as per your request. Shootings in public housing, which has always been an issue and a problem, are trending not as high as the rest of the city. I want to say that's good news, but they're not down from last year. So nobody's celebrating, and until we get them to a low enough number, we're not going to do any celebrating either. But it is not trending as high as the rest of the city. Take that for what it is. I want to segue that into the upcoming summer events that we have in public housing every year. We are going to be having, hopefully, family days this summer. We are in the preparation stage with our resident leaders, who I know many are tuning in, or they'll watch the replay at their convenience on YouTube. And the real message is, please register the event with the Housing Authority. It is very, very difficult for both the Housing Authority and the police department to be part of an event that's not sanctioned. Obviously, if 300 people are getting together, whether it is sanctioned or not sanctioned, the police department will be there. But it's much easier if we know in advance roughly how many people, where and when. And the big incentive, of course, is that the Housing Authority, I believe, allocates a certain amount of resources, funds and other resources to the event, which will just make the celebration that much better for everybody involved. So there's really only an incentive to officially register the event. From a safety point, it really helps us prepare to know in advance that it's taking place. So please do that. There is a program that has been running for the last 8 summers called Operation Cornerstone, where NYCHA, along with several other non-for-profits and DYCD and other city agencies, keep the community centers open until as late as 11 p.m. About 120 centers, 7 days a week. It usually starts right after July 4th and then ends just before Labor Day. It's a tremendous help to get young folks, off the street or away from crews and gangs, and focused on healthy activities during these months when there's less schools available to them and less opportunities to do things. For those who grew up in the city or even outside the city, you could imagine what the long summer days, how a young person could easily find themselves doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and that could have lifelong ramifications. So, in 2020, we couldn't have this program because of the pandemic. That summer, we saw the highest increase in shootings in public housing than in the preceding 19 years, as far back as we had modern statistics. There's a lot of reasons why that may have happened, but we believe one of them was we didn't have these 120 centers open for these late hours. So we'll have a meeting tomorrow with the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. It is a new administration, but we feel very positive that they will continue and put the funding in place to keep these centers open. So please look forward for that to come down the line very soon. If anyone has any questions, I want to keep it brief because there are other presenters, but if anyone has any other questions that I could help answer, I'll be more than happy to do my best to answer those questions.
Thank you so much for those updates on behalf of NYPD. Like you said, we are all very excited about Family Day and want to see them all go safely. While we are on safety and security, I'm pleased to see that James Secreto has joined us from NYCHA, the Vice President for Public Safety and Security. So thank you for joining the line. We just had updates from FDNY and NYPD. And if you would like to give us any update on the work that the security team is doing, please have the microphone.
Hi, I'm the Vice President of Safety and Security, as you said, but I'm very low on the technology totem pole. So it took me like about a half hour to get on this call. So I don't know what I missed. I caught the end of Inspector Gottesman's presentation. Where should I be going with my remarks?
Chief, you want to tell them the initiative that we've been doing?
Oh, the homeless. Oh yes, yeah. We've been partnering with NYPD and homeless services and trying to address the homeless issues and problems in NYCHA. Going a little slower than I had hoped because we visit 2 developments per week, and at that rate, it will take us 3 years to visit every development one time. So I would like to see more and more developments visited each week, and probably the time that we visit them could probably be better. But it is something, and I think the community appreciates it. The tenant association presidents are very appreciative of the effort. But that's one of the things we're doing. And as you know, the homeless situation is dire right now, in my opinion, in the developments, especially places where the doors are broken. It's like an open invitation to the homeless people to come inside. So we're doing something. We're trying to also expand by getting together with some of the nonprofits. And, whereas, say, homeless services is kind of spread thin, they're in the subways, they're out in the streets. Maybe we can partner up with some of the other organizations and go and visit some developments along with PD and kind of just visit more developments and expand the program.
Thank you for that update. And one of the things we heard initially from FDNY is that the initiative to make sure that the battalions all have the key fobs has been going well, and they're working with someone in your safety and security department who's been very swift and responsive. And we are hoping that there will be that same commitment to make sure that they all get the more traditional keys as well for the developments that don't have the key fobs.
Okay, yeah, I was at Wagner Houses this morning, and the device that reads the key fob is like damaged. I don't know if they, hit it with a knife or something, but was damaged, and that's something that we have to address. And maybe it's not the best device to use. I don't know. So,
I agree. It's not the best device to use.
okay.
This is Ms. Lozano. I'm sorry. I have an outage of a boiler in my whole development with no water, so I've been inundated with that. But as far as safety and security, that $25 is too pricey to replace the keys or that key fob. That's one of the biggest things. The other thing is that I don't know who made that determining decision on that key. So I think it's the worst technological that you have on our doors. The doors are too heavy. I did speak to capital projects, especially at my development, of some of the concerns and some of the concerns I've seen in other developments, from lighting to the doors. I think that we should revisit that altogether before installing new key fobs. The cylinders were working a lot better. We had less vandalism because we know that we have residents who are not real legal residents and squatters. We're paying no revenue to the housing authority, and they select that it's best to use the regular key, so then they don't have to let NYCHA know that there's more additional people living in the dwelling, which is another big problem that we all experiencing. I think that we also need to think about going to each of the boroughs and see what works in each borough, because just because it works in Brooklyn doesn't mean it's going to work in the Bronx, or anything in the Bronx is going to work in Manhattan. We got to stop doing things universal wise, thinking that it's going to solve all the problems and this system is going to work. CCTV doesn't work for everybody. I think it was a bad idea to begin with. I didn't want it in my development. I wanted to make sure that the precincts were there full-fledged with the partnership with NYCHA before somebody else gets raped. Like I had one person get raped in my development. I have a development that has poor leadership, and I'm still arguing with the borough regarding a meeting at that development, because those doors are still open frenzy, and there's been random robberies going on in that development that no one seems to feel it's a necessity to even do a walkthrough at the development, which is Pelham Parkway Houses. It has a new manager, but the residents don't even know that she exists. They don't even know what they're even being allocated for. So when we talk about safety, we need to really do a thorough survey of what's not working. Because that key thing is an expense. It doesn't get through the processing or activating it in a timely fashion. I have women that are from my development with domestic violence issues and can't even get in their apartments in the entrance. So I've had this conversation with safety and security.
Thank you so much,
And
Ms. Lozano, because you've hit on many important points. And I'm sure that that everyone from NYCHA is taking notes as you're speaking. Many of these, I'm sure that they've heard and are working on. Speaking of which, the last time you joined our CAC meeting, Chief Secreto, you had mentioned that you are going to be working on a development by development plan, specifically to look at what are the issues at each individual development, because to Ms. Lozano's point, some are universal, but some are quite unique. How's that process going?
Probably one of the hardest endeavors I've ever undertaken. But I do have a draft that'll probably be ready this week. I think the model we're using is Wyckoff. And Wyckoff is probably, as I was hearing Ms. Lozano speak, they've had success with their layered access, the key fob. And I've relied on her to kind of tell me, how it works and everything. they've and their manager is Miss Shalisa Reed. Is probably, I haven't met many managers here, but she's probably one of the better ones that I've met. I stood in front of one of her buildings. I think they only have about 4 buildings, but she knew everyone coming in and out of that building. And she would greet them. Hi, Miss, hi, Miss Gonzalez. How's your grandmother? She knew everybody. How's your uncle? How's his back doing? And I was very impressed with that. And I thought that would probably even be like a best practices a scenario for other managers who don't know anybody, who people don't really resonate with. So I was really impressed with her. But that the key fobs are working there, and she's really in tune with her residents. So we're gonna start there. We'll have a draft probably this week, the first one. On the safety.
I'm sure that is a difficult undertaking, but thank you for taking that individualized approach to every development. And so with that, thank you so much for that update. I would now like to turn attention to our representatives from the City Council and from HUD in that order. If you're ready to proceed, please. Hi and welcome. Thank you for joining our CAC meeting. We're so glad to have you on board. Please introduce yourself.
I guess I'll just introduce myself, but I'm not sure if there's anything else you want me to talk about.
No, an introduction would be great today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councilmember Alexa Aviles, and I am the chair of the Public Housing Committee and City Council. It's good to see some familiar faces and familiar names. Hi. District 38 is in South Brooklyn and covers the communities of Sunset Park, Red Hook, portions of Borough Park, Dyker Heights, Windsor Terrace. So thank you. I guess I'll hand it off to my HUD colleagues.
Thank you. And we appreciate you joining us. And one of the things you'll see is that our members represent different agencies throughout the city. The mayor's office, HUD, is typically on. We have representatives from the boroughs, resident association presidents. We have a CCOP representative. We have representatives from NYPD and FDNY, DYCD, and Agnes Mack from that I'll be calling on as well from the Department of Aging will give us an update shortly. And we typically talk about things that will be relevant to our members and also NYCHA residents and other initiatives that we could work on together and things that we could partner to help, just kind of break down any red tape as we're just sitting collectively around the table on issues. So we're so glad to have you with us to represent City Council and your important work as the chair of the committee. Jeff Evans from HUD, please give us any relevant updates.
Hi, Asha. Yeah, thank you. And good evening, everybody. I don't really have anything to report on at this time. The trust, as everybody was talking about, the pretty proud accomplishment allowing NYCHA, should allow NYCHA to unlock a fair amount of funding so we can move forward with some much needed capital repairs within NYCHA's property. So, but no, I don't really have much to report on at this time. Just kind of listening and taking some notes. Thanks, Asha.
Thank you so much for the important work there and that update. Okay, and next, Agnes Mack, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to report that started in the month of May, the Department for the Aging has been meeting weekly with a NYCHA representative to talk about facility issues at our NYCHA sites and the escalation process. So far, we have met twice, and so far the meeting has been going well. From the Department for the Aging side, I'm happy to report that under our SHINE grant, which we received from the New York State Office for the Aging, we have completed 105 nutrition educational workshops at various older adult centers located at NYCHA locations. with a total number of 644 unduplicated participants. And also under an innovative nutrition grant, we have also completed a virtual workshop on My Plate, which is an app that taught older adults how to use the app to achieve healthy eating. We completed 10 sessions with 11 participants. Next Wednesday, we're going to have our monthly live cooking demonstration again. And I forgot what the recipe is. It has to do with a summer dish. I can send it to Asha and to Florida if anyone is interested in receiving the information.
Yes, please send.
Sure, I'm going to send it to you right now. Thank you. That's all for my report. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that update and important work that the department is doing for our seniors. Next, I wanted to turn to the representatives from NYCHA. We've already heard from Eva Trimble, but I know that we have Gina Watkins and Nancy Ortiz also on the line. And if you could please give any updates that will be relevant in that order, please.
Good evening, all.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Good to see you guys. So, first I want to express with the police department, with Inspector Gottsman, thank them for the work that they're doing surrounding our family days, and just to let him know that those applications are rolling in, and my team will be sending you the weekly updates as we discuss, so that you'll know where we at in terms of the dates, you know, so you guys will be able to do what you need to do. Thank you much for that, and they are coming. We're currently wrapping up our spring elections. Next week, the week of the 22nd, we have citywide wrapping up some elections, and the week after we have some second nominations that we have to wrap up. So we're pretty much wrapping up everything for the spring this month, and hoping to tackle some of those unrepresented locations during the summer months, as we've done before. It's been a challenge, but we're always thinking of new strategic ideas of how to tackle it and get residents involved so that they can really understand the importance of having representation at their locations. We got a lot going on. We need that leadership involved. So we're constantly pushing to get those developments with an association on board. The trust, yes, yay. We're very happy about the success of the trust, and thanking all people that was involved as well. You know, our resident leaders who has been very supportive, you know, and helping us make it happen. And we're grateful for that, and just looking forward to, you know, us moving forward on that. I think that's about it.
You know, while you were on the topic of elections and also unrepresented developments, you know, we as the monitor team, we try really hard to reach out to as many residents as possible, but our entree is typically through the RAPs, the Resident Association presidents and the boards. How best can we liaison with or developments that are unrepresented?
So what we do is we have teams that go out when there's any kind of information or distributions that need to take place. We put a team together to be out there engaging all residents, knocking on the doors, telling them about the different things that's going on. Come downstairs, we have some goodies for you, you know, things to that nature, and just constantly communicating with them to get them on board. You know, and those locations have been unrepresented for some time now, you know, and we have, I think this may have been the third time that we've actually been out, you know, trying to engage them to get them on board. So we're still trying, because we know that they need that representation. So I'm very optimistic this time that when we go out there this summer, that we'll be able to get some residents involved. But we continuously just go out, and hit the ground and just be out there knocking on doors and speaking to people and getting a feel of who's who and how they can connect us to people who they know have good leadership skills and would be interested in participating. So that's
Right,
what,
absolutely. And the resident leaders do such important work being
oh, absolutely, absolutely.
with their leadership. Thank you so much for that update.
Asha,
Welcome.
Yes.
I gotta emphasize that we in CCOP, we're not all that enthusiastic about much of the trust. So let me put that on for the record. The second thing is that the elections that have been challenged unnecessarily, and the letters that are being sent to resident leaders to redo elections, that is still questionable, and it's a little disheartening for NYCHA to want us to rush our district and CCOP elections when there are elections that really need to be put under scrutiny. I have two in my development that I don't know why that particular resident leader was able to run again with only 3 votes when there's 1,200 units in that development, and everybody that protested of not having that resident leader be part of the system again is still part of the system, and those residents don't know who their manager is. Those residents haven't seen a meeting in nearly 6 years and plus. I'm trying to get one as a district chair, and I'm still finding a problem with having to do that. I got one resident that got elected and is holding the entire board hostage, literally, and the manager doesn't want to hear and respect the ones that do want to have jurisdiction of doing stuff. So it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And I suggest through resident engagement that before you guys walk up to us, these elections have to be already closed, because that was the agreement that we had with Sherrod, that all the elections that were still outstanding needed to be addressed, but they're not. I'm sorry to say they're not, because if they were, I wouldn't have to be going back out there redoing elections, because people, just because they're on a lease, that gives them the determining factor of running, but they don't know anything about NYCHA. They don't know anything about what it's about. They haven't invested, but they're the first ones to project saying it's illegal. They want to protest when there's something to protest. And we're seeing that a lot all over the city. I can't speak on what Ms. Watkins has seen, but I can tell you, I got at least 4 developments under my jurisdiction that those presidents shouldn't even be up there to begin with. And the residents are still feeling the crust of it, because if they weren't, I wouldn't have to be running 3 or 4 developments aside of my own. So this is where I'm at. Anybody else want to talk about it, then by all means. But I know what's not happening in NYCHA. And I know that, just saying respectfully that I have yet to hear not one person on this call to say, oh, well, they want to talk to CCOP when they already dialed the dotted line, and then they want to use the same culprits against us to slander us for no apparent reason without knowing the real facts. And more importantly, we are going to have a citywide Zoom on every borough, so there wouldn't be any resident leader to say that they don't get the information, because that is not true neither. They
Ms.
get the
Pisano,
information.
I'm glad that while you have the floor, it sounds like you're starting to get to some of the CCOP updates I was hoping you would get to.
Well, the CCOP update is that we signed, even though we're going to amend some of the things that some resident leaders all of a sudden came out of the woodwork when we had submitted it to them way before we were able to sign it, and nobody responded. But miraculously, people are responding. Luckily, we have 3 members, Ms. McFadden, Martinez, and Torres. They've been very vital to us. So I want to, congratulate them, because they're going to get the same raw end of the stick as we have, unjustifiably. I just want people to understand that if they need to know something, they need to speak to us as a group, or request it, or find out who their respective district chairs are, because we do talk each and every week on a weekly basis since before the pandemic and prior to the pandemic. So yes, we have signed. Yes, we're not thrilled about the trust. One of the dirty dozen from the state assembly happens to be my assemblywoman, who her father is a private property owner. So I don't take all that hoopla about the trust, because just like there's deficiencies there, there's big deficiencies in the way policies are being made conveniently through utilizing the 964. And unfortunately, NYCHA has made it their business to utilize it to the best of their ability. And then we unfortunately fall through the cracks. So
Ms.
before
Lozano, is there a formal statement from CCOP that you wanted to make regarding the trust or any other topic?
Well, as far as the trust, everybody knew that we didn't support the blueprint and the trust. We will be reaching out to all the resident leaders that I can tell you publicly, to discuss what the position is and what we have done for the last 2 years, and what we have worked in a so-called partnership with NYCHA, and what as a CCOP we are going to do on the vested interest of all the residents that are affected by whatever new guidelines or trusts or whatever they wish. And that opting in and opting out, I don't believe it. I don't like it. That's what put us with dividing the districts and CCOP in more ways than one. So that opting in and opting out, if anybody feels that that is a full choice of the future of our respective developments, then I wish, and I pull my hat off for all of them who really believe that. But I know, hate to say it, I don't believe it. I like to be shown, and that's my position.
Ms. Lozano.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gross, are you trying to cut in?
Yes. Ms. Lozano, I would like to ask if a drug dealer can run for TA president.
According to what we know, I mean, first of all, there has to be a legitimate cause to say somebody is a drug dealer. They have to have previous arrest records. That I know that when it comes to elections, NYCHA is clearly not looking at that. That I can say. And the reason why I can say that is because I had my elections. There were certain unscrupulous actions that were put against me, and I had to go independent and get it done on my own, because Inspector General didn't do much for me, unfortunately. Safety and security didn't do nothing for me. So I was really left to dry. So no, a known drug dealer shouldn't be in good standing, nor a person that's supposed to want to run and has had several violations for not paying their rent consecutively. They shouldn't be considered in good standing. But then the question becomes through resident engagement. What is really good standing? We started from 90 days and now we're starting in less than 24 days. Our resident leaders have to conjure up and do whatever they got to do to finish for their family day. And we know that's not the new normalcy, not the way we're living now, but that's something that needs to be revisited, I guess.
So what's happened?
I'm sorry.
What's happened if resident is sending for NYCHA information on a resident not in good standing? NYCHA have obligation to investigate that, or NYCHA can say they don't care, they don't want to look into it. They can choose.
Well, if they don't want to look into it, everybody has a boss. You go through chain of command from the chairman on down, and then it'll trickle down to I guess Janelle and Yuka. But if there's known evidence and they don't want to adhere by that, then that's why they have an Inspector General's office. And if they don't do what they have to do, then maybe it needs to go separately to our Letitia James and let her look at it over NYCHA. You know, if the proof is in the pudding and the documentation is there, there is no need for anybody to disregard that unless it's a personal agenda. But I wouldn't know that. I'm just saying.
And it looks like Ms. Watkins has come off mute. Did you want to weigh in on that?
No, I'm just listening to what she's saying and what Mr. Gross is saying, and circumstances surrounding those elections. That information is provided in regards to Williams Plaza from the developer of that development, as if it was NYCHA also having an election, that information would come through management. We just reach out and send a document to ask them if the person is in good standings or not, It's not something that we investigate because management is the property person who deals with those tenants directly. So we just reach out to them with a dot, excuse me?
Management isn't gonna do that. Right now, my manager is out there around my district and in the South Bronx, helping managers that still don't know what to do when it comes to just basic operational tasks, like evictions, like squatters. They're not gonna look at that. The only thing the managers are gonna look at, and this is what they're looking at, Watkins, so I'm telling you because
Ms. Lozano.
They're looking at addresses and a person's name on a lease. That's all they're looking at.
Ms. Lozano, I think we have Ms. Watkins trying to weigh in, and it's hard to see on Zoom.
Yeah.
And okay,
So-
Ms. Watkins, have you completed? And then I see a hand up from our council member. Did you want to weigh in?
Sure, I just wanted to ask a question from Ms. Lozano. Hi, Lilith. I know there was a CCOP agreement that was signed in, I guess, September of 21.
It's the bylaws and the code of conduct.
Yeah,
That's what
the copy that I have didn't. I'm sorry, the copy that I have was signed in 21. Is it being revised? And is there a new code of conduct? Because there was not one with the copy that I got. I just want to clarify.
No, the bylaws that we signed a week and a half ago, those are connected with the code of conduct, with all our official signatures.
Got it. So they just updated the code of conduct, not the additional bylaws. Got it.
Right. Now they close together, and because we have three new CCOP interim members, they didn't have the opportunity to look at it. So we actually, with Ms. Suarez, she's actually chairing a new bylaws committee.
Sorry, Ms. Lozano, something's happening with your audio. You're starting to break up.
Which this past week. So you can call Mr. Barber and he'll be able to email it to you.
Thank you.
Hello?
Perfect.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So my question is right now, if management was not doing the obligation for some reason and residents is reaching out to NYCHA for due diligence, can NYCHA refuse to do the due diligence?
I'll ask a NYCHA representative to respond, please. Okay, if we don't have a ready answer, then perhaps, Mr. Gross, we can connect you directly with NYCHA to follow up on that good question. Okay, next I want to turn to Ms.
So Asha, if I may, just for a moment.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I believe we're talking about the memorandum of understanding. Is that right, Asha? Ms. Lozano? I think we have an engagement where we have a public housing technical assistance provider that's been working with the CCOP, and they'll be back not next week, but the week after, to continue to put together the work plan to train through the development staff on their NYCHA on their obligations underneath the regulations underneath 964, which is a public housing obligations to be responsive to the tenant association. So we have some ongoing work here, and we're far from complete on this one, but we're making good progress as far as working with the CCOP, tenant associations, and getting NYCHA to come to the same table and working together.
So my question is, if we feel the management was not doing the due diligence, was not doing the right thing for any reason, we will not go in. Why? And we send an email to NYCHA. Can NYCHA just say they don't want to look into it? They don't care what the residents are sending. That's it, or they obligated according to 964 to do the due diligence themselves. Talk to the police department, do some extra steps, homework to find out if the allegation is right or wrong.
Yeah, no, NYCHA has an obligation to respond to you. And, with NYCHA being such a large organization, there's some deficiencies in the way the development staff understand the rules and not being trained properly. So we know that there's multiple deficiencies with the development staff, and we're working through those. We know there's deficiencies in the training system. We know there's in regards to the different various trades and how they're trained, but also the property managers and the various management titles as well. So out of that is support. It will be a training program where we're training all the property managers, all of the assistant property managers, the neighborhood administrators, the borough VP on the obligations of NYCHA to respond to tenant issues and to be responsive, not just to blow you off. So while it's still in its infancy, we're working through this, and I'm confident that we're going to be able to get NYCHA development management staff to a point where they'll be responsive to you.
And it sounds like, Mr. Gross, that you might have a very specific concern at your development. So I encourage you to work directly with NYCHA to make sure that they do the proper due diligence as is indicated should happen at that point.
I
So
try, but they're not
Asha,
responding.
So NYCHA's, it's not a NYCHA development, it's actually under PAC, under another management, and NYCHA is looking into, you did send a letter, we are still looking into that letter, and we are in consultation with our law department. And just so that we're clear, it wasn't a NYCHA management that was conducting the tenancy requirement for your election process, for Mr. Gross's election process at Williams Plaza.
I see. Thank you for that clarification.
And Asha, just so you know.
Hold on.
that's-
I'm sorry.
Asha.
Sorry, Ms. Lozano, I'm sorry to cut you off. I have to keep our agenda moving.
Okay.
So
no
I'm
problem.
going to turn to Ms. Ortiz, who has been patiently waiting to give her update, and then I'm going to turn to Mr. Martinez. Ms. Ortiz?
Good evening, everyone. I've been missing for a while, but I'm back. I would like to begin with this past Saturday, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention had their overnight walk, and it was amazing. The turnout was, I mean, it was just, it tore my heart open. They raised over $2 million in New York City alone, and I applaud them for that. What I applaud is the youth that was out there walking. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we have a roundtable that we discuss mental health on, and this was one of the initiatives that I wanted the roundtable to embrace. Secondly, I am no longer in the office of the chair. I now work for James Secreto, the Vice President of Safety and Security. And under his auspice, I have to say that we have done other initiatives other than what he mentioned. He forgot a whole lot of other things, but he's really passionate. And I went out to 66 senior developments to do a site safety survey and came up with some initiatives that will hopefully alleviate some of the issues that they're having with the broken doors and the drug dealing going on in the roofs and homeless sleeping up in the roofs as well. Also, we've been discussing looking at how we can better plan out having police NYPD do some last minute, what we call unexpected sweeps in the developments. Like they'll just go in and randomly go into buildings, and we can't do the verticals the way we used to, but we do unannounced sweeps where nobody's the wiser. We don't even know when they're gonna do it, but they're doing this, and it seems to be working because they come back, but when the sweep is done again, then they don't come back. And as he said before, also working with the Department of Homeless Services as well. And we're trying to partner up with organizations, but also with these smaller groups that they're into the, nonviolence, stop the guns, stop the killing, those types of groups, to do motivational speeches to some of the youth and try to embrace them and give them activities to do over the summer. So that's my my statement, my update.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ortiz. It's it was really heartwarming to hear that there were so many youth involved in the suicide prevention walk, and the important work that safety and security is doing, particularly with the homeless initiative, because as we've been hearing from residents, it's a really big concern. So thank you for that update. And now I wanted to turn to Mr. Martinez. I've asked him to give us a presentation on section 3, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for, I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank everyone for being here, for all of the information that we've been given. So section 3 is very impacting here in New York City, considering the size of New York City Housing Authority. In many other housing authorities, which are significantly smaller, it doesn't have the same impact. Here in New York City, we're looking at $6 billion in capital improvements, which has a significant value to our communities when it comes to training and employment, and for legacy contracts, contracting, which has not been happening in NYCHA ever. So there isn't section 3 business concern contracting, which is a significant diminishment. Just in that alone, up to date, we are deficient maybe $2 billion that could have gone into, over the last decade, that could have gone into business development. But we are making progress in changing some of the policies, and we're looking at clearing up some of the deficiencies. There was one excuse of the project labor agreement being an obstruction currently, which it is not, and we were able to disprove that. What we're looking to do now is to engage in enforcing some of that now with some of these contractors, so that we can put bite into section 3, holding sanctions, and, well, at least giving contractors the ability to cure whatever default that they have, and if not, being able to penalize them. What is happening now with the section 3 work group that has currently been going for approximately a little over a month, we've been engaging in new policy and how to create new policy that would be more equitable and more effective in getting training into a community, right? That would offset some of the benchmark deficiencies. Benchmarks meaning the quotas that are being given. So now section 3 is section 3 of the HUD Act of 1968. So this is a federal economic mandate based off of HUD expenditures. The first 2 priorities of section 3 are public housing residents specifically, right? Public housing residents that live at the development where construction is being had, or public housing residents that live in neighboring developments of where the construction is being had. Priority 3 would be youth build, and priority 4 are low income households in the area. So with NYCHA, priority 1 and priority 2 is significant. We're looking at a population of 500,000, roughly 50, 60,000 people who would qualify for this potential career path. And that is what we're trying to engage with section 3 is career path, training and apprenticeships that will lead people into, equitable careers. Careers in construction, such as plumbing, roofing, and contracting are significant careers, right? They do leave people on a self-sufficiency track economically. So I am happy to be a part of this work group because we are making some progress and we're looking to engage in executing the plan. So we have been working towards that. There are some things that we do have to understand with section 3 though, right? There are some qualifiers and disqualifiers. So for example, Mr. Gross is part of a RAD development, right? I think Ms. Watkins said PAC, but essentially it's not PAC, it's RAD specifically. So once that RAD development becomes fully privatized, there is no access to section 3 to those residents. So those residents do not have access for that type of employment, not under mandates. So those kinds of things we really need to accommodate, because these we're talking about significant loss of population that would no longer have the benefit of section 3, especially now that we're curing it or that we're making it more equitable. Also, just, section 8 conversions in and of itself has an impact on section 3. diminishing the amount of people that would have access to this economic benefit, a huge economic benefit here in New York City once it would be properly executed. And so I am looking forward to the proper execution of it. I'm, again, grateful to be a part of this team, and I'm very hopeful. And so any questions on Section 3 or anything else, Councilmember Aviles? And congratulations for being the public housing chair. I look forward to speaking with you and working with you. But yes, how are you?
Thank you so much, Mr. Martinez. I've been listening to you on hearings for a good long while. Thank you for always being there to explain Section 3 and to defend and expand it. I guess I wanted to just clarify, make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say that under Section 8, there's reduced protections? For Section 3, I just want to be clear what you said.
So under Part 75, the new regulations, public housing managed Section 8 would have access to Section 3, but Section 8 outside of that doesn't. There is no access to Section 3, even though it is encouraged, but it's not mandated.
It's not mandated. So you have to be a Section 8 resident that resides in public housing.
Well,
You
you have
access
to
to Section 3.
a Section 8 resident in public housing managed Section 8 units, right?
Got
So
it.
the public housing has to manage the Section 8 unit, which is not something that is happening in New York City currently at the moment. All RAD developments are privately managed. During the transition of conversion, Section 3 is still active because technically the development is under the housing authority. But once the conversion is completed, they no longer have access to Section 3.
Thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you some more about it.
So Mr. Martinez, I'm going to look into a little bit on this one, but it's my understanding that Section 3 is not just for public housing tenants, and therefore it wouldn't apply to just the Section 3 provisions wouldn't apply to just tenants living in public housing. So I'm going to look a bit more into this, but I certainly want to let you know that HUD, this is a focal point for HUD as well, and we're going to continue to work with you, Mr. Martinez, and NYCHA to champion and shepherd through the Section 3 Act so we can implement it in a very meaningful way for NYCHA's tenants.
So if I could just respond to that. So you are right. Priority 1 and priority 2 are public housing residents. Priority 3 is youth build, and priority 4 are low-income housing, low-income households in that geographic area. Now, confirming low-income households in a geographic area, especially in New York, where an employer cannot ask what your salary currently is or what your salary currently was, that is something that has to be engaged, and I don't think that there is a method for that. But you're right. But what I'm speaking to is that Section 8 does not have a mandatory access to it outside of priority 4, right? So if they're a priority 4 low-income household and they can prove that, then that would be the access. They would be the last priority. So to your point, you're right to that extent. But priority 1 and priority 2 are public housing residents or public housing managed Section 8 residents.
Right. So, yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Martinez. And like I said, this is a priority for HUD, and we're going to continue to make this a focal point with you and NYCHA, because NYCHA's is working with you, Mr. Martinez, and your working group here. And we're going to continue to champion the Section 3 provisions and try to get as many jobs as possible for tenants that are looking for employment underneath Section 3.
I truly appreciate
that. If I can ask you to turn your volume up a little bit, we're having a little difficulty hearing you. But if you could say more, I'm so glad to hear HUD's prioritizing and supporting initiative, and what more is HUD doing to get behind it?
Yeah, and Asha, apologies for the volume. I think my microphone might be a little bit too far away from my computer, but so we're working on a technical assistance engagement right now. So we're at the very infancy stage. We've identified HUD has some strict contracting rules So we don't have a whole lot of flexibility here in the technical assistance providers that we're using, but we've identified one. We're in the initial planning stages of that, and then we're close to bringing in Mr. Martinez into these planning conversations, but we have to go through the administrative side of the technical assistance contract first, and then when we get through the administrative side, as we start to develop the scope for the Section 3, we'll be working with Mr. Martinez and NYCHA's Section 3 working group here. So we have a fair amount of money set aside for this technical assistance engagement. So it could be, we plan on it being quite deep in its engagement.
It's good to hear. I just wanted to tee up the Section 3 discussion for tonight's meeting, and we'll continue the discussion with the folks at NYCHA who are specializing in this area in their portfolio at our next meeting in August. But now I wanted to thank Mr. Martinez for that update and presentation, and open the floor up generally for discussion. For a lot of the issues, we talked about it as we went, but I wanted to save 10 more minutes if there are any further questions, updates on this topic or any other discussion topics. The floor is open.
Yeah, Asha, I wanted to mention, I know that I kind of missed the latter part of the presentation by the inspector. One of my concerns with the family days is one of my enduring developments, which is Marble Hill. I was waiting for Mr. Edwards to set up a meeting with the local precinct, because he has some Rough Riders that find it necessary that they feel like he's the hinder, which he's not, because these particular organization want to do a sponsored basketball tournament. And unfortunately, they think that it's Mr. Edwards that's hindering it. The manager doesn't want to seem that engaging with having to deal with the predicament. But the reality is that it's causing friction within the residents, the resident leader there, because of this particular organization. They want to use the grounds, the housing NYCHA basketball courts, to have running with summer basketball events. They don't seem to want to hear by the rules and regulations with NYCHA and the police department. And I want to make sure for the record that we expedite a meeting at Marble Hill so we can deal with this entity that may be a little aggressive more than we would like them to be, and to prevent any type of unnecessary confrontation with that organization. So I'm asking, if possible, if someone could reach out with Ms. Edwards, because I know he sent several emails to the command to get them to meet with us regarding the upcoming family day.
So it sounds like you're trying to coordinate with NYPD.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we could have Inspector Gottesman follow up directly with you, and you can handle it that way. And then we will, focus this discussion on more systemic concerns here in the discussion period. Does anyone have anything else you wanted to raise?
Yes, Mr. Gross.
Please.
One topic is right now is the temperature is rising, and I starting to get phone calls from all over the city, from Manhattan, from Brooklyn, from Bronx. My colleagues, they know me, saying they have a issue. Once it's getting warmer, the elevators automatically shutting themselves off because it's getting overheated. And this is a constantly issue. I know the Congresswoman reached out to me in Queens. We have last week in a development, a couple of handicapped people was downstairs on the street for hours, was unable to go home. So I was dealing with the same issue in my development a couple of years ago. I think if we unclog the exhaust system in the elevator room and we install a fan or an AC unit, the elevators will not go out. The problem is if we're not doing it, we will have constantly elevators in buildings, in multiple buildings. Once we probably by 75, if the temperature is above 75, especially with humid, automatically the elevators will go down. And it's in
Mr. Gross,
our
I'm
hand
going
to avoid it.
ask you to pause for a second. I see that Dan Burnell, who is our team lead for elevators, has come on screen. Dan, did you want to?
Yeah, and Eva may want to weigh in here too. But so what I'm going to do, Mr. Grossman, is I actually have a meeting with the elevator division tomorrow, and I'll bring this up. You should know that I think probably don't have the date right, but I think about 2 years ago, NYCHA started an initiative of installing air conditioners in a lot of the motor rooms. I can't remember what percentage completion they are, but I think it's close to 90% at this point. So that's actually going pretty well in terms of, I think they only have a few remaining installations to make. So I'm going to raise this tomorrow. But when you say they automatically shut off, if you know, and again, I know, you really can't see a lot of what's in an elevator operating because it's in a shaft and you can't see what's in the shaft. But what actually happens? Just because of the heat, your sense is that the elevators just shut off? It's not an outage?
It's getting overheated.
Yeah.
And when the elevator's on the first floor, automatically it shuts themselves off. A lot of times, because it's so hot in the room, a lot of times you go upstairs, I was there, it's above 200 to 300. The temperature is really hot. And automatically, a lot of times the elevator equipment is getting damaged from it. A lot of times the sensors will just shut it off. It should not catch fire or overheat it, break down for good.
Okay, so I'll get more information on this, as I said, tomorrow.
And other topic, what I want to mention, we was talking with the key fob, the fire department was talking. I was having the same issue in my development. We have key fobs, but a lot of times the key fob is working, not working. So we install a FDNY key. So the same key they use to the elevator is outside by the door. So they always right now using the key to enter the building. The fire department, EMS is using it. So with that success, no doors was getting broken in my development in Williams and Independence because the FDNY key works well. It's manually. It's not a chip when it's humid or wet. It's a key. So they can use it a chip and they can use the elevator key to go into the building. I think an elevator key, a general elevator key in all NYCHA developments, a FDNY key will be the best option because they have the keys because it works for all the elevators. It's citywide. Even they have backups, different stations, different crews. Everybody will have the key.
So, Mr. Grossman, I'm reminded you're in Williamsburg houses, correct?
Williams Plaza.
Williams Plaza, which is a RAD development.
PAC development, yes.
PACT. Okay, so ESRD obviously isn't the department that's servicing your elevators, but I'll ask generally when and we should probably have this conversation separately, but when you bring this up with management, what kind of a response are you getting?
No, we have new elevators just starting to work a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. I'm not talking directly in my development. I was reached out I'm on community.
So other developments, okay.
Yeah. I'm sitting on the community board one and the committee is public housing.
Okay.
I have a lot of residents reaching out from different developments. It's just generally.
Okay, that's good.
Mr. Gross, is Jeff Evans with Pod. What this particular development with the elevator issue? I missed it. Which development is having that issue?
In Queens, I have to remind myself. I will send it to you later if you want.
Okay, yeah, it's if we can get it to Dan, that would be very helpful. And Dan, thanks for helping with this matter.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jeff. The more specific you can be, we can focus in on terms of that particular development, just then, speaking generally.
So I know elected official call me I think it's in Queens because they know I have a lot of numbers with NYCHA who they can call from the NYCHA department. I try to assist them. They send me pictures like a couple residents are sitting downstairs waiting for hours to go up in wheelchairs and scooters to go up. the apartment, they're unable to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's obviously not good.
But that's what I'm thinking. This is avoidable if we put in just exhaust, if fans inside AC units, that can be avoidable.
Yep.
Good recommendations. Thank you so much, Mr. Gross. Okay, we're coming up to the end of our 90 minutes, but I certainly appreciate all of the updates and hard work from everyone and robust discussion. And I wanted to turn back to our deputy monitor to see if there were any closing remarks, please.
Yeah, not really a lot, Asha, other than to say, obviously, this is a, good discussion as always. The first summer, which was the summer of 2019 of the monitorship, I actually had the opportunity. In fact, Asha, I think you and I went to some family days, and then Bart and I and some other people went to family days, clearly with the pandemic for the last 2 summers, they couldn't have summer days because it was just too dangerous for people. So it's great that that's happening again. Obviously, those are very important to build bonds, just to have a good time, but to build bonds and relationships within development, so that it's really good that that's happening. And I'm sure that Bart and I and some others will be out to some of those family days to do that. The other thing I want to mention, it's warm now, and it's, Mr. Gross was just indicating that, with the high temperatures, that's not always good for elevators, particularly with the motor rooms that are in the sun all day on the roofs of buildings. But we're actually, and Jeff is part of this from HUD, we're actually working with the heat department that's come up with a preventive maintenance strategy plan. A lot of the preventive maintenance works happens in the summer when a lot of the boilers can be turned off so that they can be cleaned out and otherwise repairs made. So a lot of that work is happening. The heat department is started a bunch of new initiatives so that they can have a successful preventive maintenance season, which we're working with NYCHA's internal oversight team from environmental health and safety to oversee and to report back, if things aren't working or need to be improved, so that hopefully we have a better heat season, starting in October. So a lot of things are happening. The vent, the roof vent project was completed a couple weeks ago, which was, a major undertaking with a lot of obstacles all along the way, including at one point, finding out that there was asbestos in some of the older fans that had to be replaced, which of course just slows everything down. So that's another major, I think, accomplishment for NYCHA in its kind of never-ending battle to fight mold in buildings with these internal ventilation fans and the duct work that really helps, particularly when most of the bathrooms don't have windows for ventilation to help reduce mold. So there's a lot of good things happening, and I really look forward as new people come on to the CAC to take on some issues and get some things done as a team. These safety surveys are great, that Nancy was talking about, kind of revitalizing those so that every development knows what the main safety issues are to work on, whether it's lighting or broken doors or cameras or whatever. So I think there's a lot of good things happening, and a lot of work for this committee to take on and find solutions for.
Thanks, Dan. We certainly are hoping this committee will continue to roll up your sleeves, and we've worked on a lot of great initiatives together. And of course, each of your agencies and developments and boroughs are doing a lot of important work. So we hope that will continue. I wanted to turn to Councilmember Aviles to please give us the update about the hearing that's going to happen on June 21st, please.
Oh, sure. Apologies. I thought we were wrapping up, so I just wanted to get it in there. So on June 21st, we're going to have a joint hearing with the Sanitation Committee to explore and get a little deeper on the situation around waste management across the NYCHA campuses. So I left my email in the chat along with our legislative and budget director. So just wanted to invite any and all conversations, both to help us prepare for that hearing, and just to make sure that it's always important to be resident-led and embedded in kind of the real life experience of folks on the ground. And I know this is a pillar area as well, so I'll be circling back to the team around it.
Yeah, and council member, I know we'll be speaking. I think they are setting up a time sometime next week.
Yes. So
Great.
just wanted to extend the invitation to everyone.
Thank you so much, council member. And Floretta, can you please put up the upcoming meeting dates? We will have our next CAC meeting will be in August. As you know, we meet every other month as a committee. And so that will be on Tuesday, August 9th. So please mark your calendars now and plan to join us. And then we will have the next Queens Community Meeting next month, Tuesday, July 12th. We tend to alternate our community meetings and our CAC meetings. And we're also planning additional events where we can get the monitor team out to speak with residents virtually and in person during the family days. So please don't feel like you have to wait though for any of our formal meetings to reach out to us. You can always check our website at nitramonitor.com, email monitor@nitramonitor.com, call us at 347-809-5555, or our toll-free number at 844-309-6080. So please keep in touch with us, email us, and if you know of additional resident presidents who would like to be involved from the varying boroughs, please also let us know as we are looking to continue to add more members to our committee. So again, thank you all for being with us tonight. Please stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you at our next CAC meeting in August. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Asha.
Thanks, Asha. Everyone have a good night and get home safe.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, Sasha. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good
Thank
night.
you, Asha.